Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar in which we're going to be talking about how employers can manage the Christmas period. And before we get going, we would like to introduce ourselves. I'm Victoria Templeton, the HR Knowledge Manager here at HR Solutions. And I'm joined today by Sue Watson. Sue's our Operations Director, and together we're going to guide you through the topic. We've got lots of you that have joined us today, which is great. Welcome. And because we've got so many of you, we've put you all on mute. But as we usually like to do in our webinars, we do like to have your questions. So we'll do that by inviting you to submit your questions on the panel, which you should see like here on the slide. So simply just add your questions and then we'll answer as many as we can at the end. These will be read out anonymously, so please do take the opportunity to pick our brains on the topic. We'll be happy to talk through your questions. We also like to make our webinars as engaging as possible, and we do this by using polls. And today in particular, we've got lots of discussion points throughout the session. So we find that polls not only help steer our webinar, but it also helps us to share how the topic is being managed in our own workplaces. And therefore, it can help share ideas of best practice amongst you all. And it's always good to know how different aspects of people management are being dealt with within organisations. So when you see this slide, that's the point that we're going to be running the polls. They are confidential. We only publish the results to our questions. So we would welcome as many of you today sharing your insights with us. And it is a jam-packed session. Here's the agenda. We're going to start off by highlighting the legal framework that's particularly relevant this time of year. We'll then consider when is a social event a work event, which is a really important consideration. And then from a more practical perspective, we're going to look at how you can become an inclusive employer at this time, dealing with leave and staffing crises, and whilst this time of year is a happy time for most, there will be some who may find it challenging. And so it's important that we talk through how, as an organisation, we can proactively support employee wellbeing. And then before we take your questions at the end, I do want to just acknowledge the latest with regards to the Employment Rights Bill. This is going to be something that we talk about on all of our webinars now, given that we're just 5 months away or less before the first phase of reforms come in. And then we'll finish off with your Q&A. A copy of the slides will be sent out afterwards, as well as a link to the recording. So before I get going on the legal stuff, let's just run a couple of quick polls, and that's just so we can understand our audience today. So first of all, just let us know how you would describe your business. And we'll keep that open for a few moments.
Yep. I think we've got a little bit of a delay again on the voting.
Have we?
Oh, it's coming through now.
Brilliant.
I think it caught up.
Yeah.
Okay, we will close and share that one.
Okay, let's see. Okay, brilliant. So across all size industries, predominantly obviously small to medium, but it's good to see that all aspects, all sizes of organisations are covered there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then a really important question is actually who's responsible for human resource management in your organisation?
Just waiting for them to come through.
Yeah, it's a little bit slow today.
Oh, they're coming through now.
Brilliant.
Seem to come through pretty quick when they do. It's just a little bit of a delay starting, isn't it? Right, I'll close and share that result now.
Let's see the breakdown.
There we go.
Yeah,
mainly
and
in the
quite
house. Yeah.
often, yeah, exactly. And we do see business owners and office managers picking up responsibilities for HR. Um, interestingly, yeah, and then 4% of you outsourced HR team. So if any of you are our clients, welcome. But thank you for that. That's brilliant. So let's get going with the webinar today. And as I said, it's really important to put the context in place because really it's really difficult to strike the balance between your festive cheer and legal compliance. And that in itself can present unique legal and HR challenges. But also, as well as excitement builds, so too also the risks that are associated with everything from the office party conduct to annual leave management. So we will look at practical strategies as we progress through the webinar, but let's just put the legal context forward first. And the first piece is around the Equality Act. This is the legislation that prohibits discriminatory conduct, so direct, indirect harassment, victimisation. It's unlawful to discriminate someone who holds, or in some cases is perceived to hold, or is associated with a person that holds a protected characteristic. And these protected characteristics are your age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage or civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation. And last year we saw an amendment made to the Equality Act through the introduction of the Worker Protection Amendment of Equality Act 2023. And what this did was to introduce a new legal obligation on employers to take reasonable steps to prevent the sexual harassment of its workers during the course of their employment. And when a claim of sexual harassment has been upheld, the tribunal can make an uplift of up to 25% in compensation. And a key activity for all employers since the introduction of that new duty is in managing obligations by carrying out a risk assessment for the prevention of sexual harassment. And in fact, this area of the law is actually going to be changing once more. So we know that the Employment Rights Bill that's currently going through Parliament, as part of that, it's going to introduce a change to the current obligation, so it becomes the employer will become obligated to make all reasonable take all reasonable steps in preventing sexual harassment. And it might just be a small one-word addition, all, but actually it's quite significant because it means that you have to exhaust and put everything in place. There can't be any stone left unturned. And that new obligation is expected to come in October 2026. There's also something known as vicarious liability and the liability of employers principle, and that's essentially making employers and principals liable for the actions of their employees or agents. So this principle is all about saying that anything that is done by someone in the course of their employment must be treated as also being done by the employer. Or similarly, anything done by an agent for a principal with the authority of the principal must be treated as also done by the principal. So it will not matter whether that thing that is done is with the knowledge or approval of the employer or principal, and it will not matter as well that the employer did nothing wrong. If there is sufficient connection between the wrongdoing and the employment, there is that vicarious liability. So if an employer is to successfully defend a case of this type at tribunal, it's about showing that they took all reasonable steps to prevent the employee from doing that thing or from doing anything of that description. And this is why training your managers and employees is critical. Having clear policies and procedures that are effectively and consistently implemented are also essential management tools. These are just a couple of examples, but HR plays a key role in ensuring the business is mitigating risk by helping to facilitate these and other measures as well. We then have the Employment Rights Act of 1996, and it goes without saying that where there is misconduct over this festive period, perhaps say in connection to a work party, then the usual company procedures must apply. So care must be taken to ensure that where there is a dismissal, then it is done so legally fair. And for a legally fair dismissal, it's about demonstrating that, first of all, it was for one of the statutory 5 reasons, i.e. your conduct, capability, etc. But also that as an employer, you acted reasonably in treating that reason as sufficient to dismiss the employee, and your response of dismissal was in the range of reasonable responses. Furthermore, there needs to be a fair procedure followed and in line with the ACAS Code of Practice. So there's a high burden, high threshold to meet in order to ensure a fair dismissal. So these are really important legal frameworks that are in operation for an employer. And finally, we mustn't forget actually our duty as well to protect and safeguard the health and safety and welfare of our workers and all those who are affected by the operation of our business. And because work-related social events, such as Christmas parties, are generally considered a direct extension of the workplace, which I'll come on to in a moment, it means that an employer's standard legal responsibilities for employee safety, welfare, conduct still apply, even if the event is held off-site or even if that event is held outside normal hours. So the Health and Safety at Work Act is the cornerstone, obviously, of the UK health and safety law, and together with the management of health and safety at work regulations, there's that requirement for employers to manage risks so far as is reasonably practicable. And obviously with that, it means your risk assessment under the Health and Safety at Work Act and the Management of Health and Safety Work regulations. There's the requirement to carry out an assessment of all risks. So if we think about a Christmas party, it's about covering the venue safety, checking for trip hazards, clear access, fire safety, if there's adequate lighting. When we think about food and drink, it's about managing risks associated with food allergies, dietary requirements, and the consequences of excessive alcohol consumption. And then it's also about considering travel, so considering the safety of employees getting home, particularly late at night, or if alcohol is involved, perhaps provide taxi numbers or subsidised transport. And then a couple of other things from a welfare perspective is ensuring adequate welfare provisions are in place and available. So, for example, that could be non-alcoholic alternatives and general facilities available for people. And don't forget the risk assessment for the prevention of sexual harassment, as I've spoken a moment ago, because that is critical. If you think about Christmas social events where alcohol is flowing, risks obviously then increase. And if you don't carry out that risk assessment, how do you know what the risks are, where those risks are, and therefore how can you demonstrate you've put the measures in place that you need to in order to prevent it? So it's a critical action at this point in time, given the heightened risks. So we're going to run a couple of polls at this point, and I guess it's interesting to get your view on whether you think your Christmas social event is going to be a work event for employment law purposes. So let's see what everybody thinks.
What an interesting topic.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about all the legal framework. It kind of, some people must start thinking, actually, is it worth all the stress of this?
I know, and
it's hard.
It is really hard, and also equally, you don't want to be a killjoy. Exactly. And it's striking that balance, because we all want to have fun the end of the year and come together as a team, and but yet there's the serious side of it that we also must be responsible in managing. So
absolutely, they've just started coming through again, so I will close and share those results. So there we go.
It's quite interesting, actually, this what is a work event, and we'll come on to a little bit more, but what are the poll results showing us?
So only if it is the majority, yes, always 70%.
Yeah, okay.
But we've got 14% think it only if it is company funded, and then the smaller percentages are around only if it's during working hours or it's a private social event,
Okay.
or not sure. So I think the next few slides will perhaps help with that.
Yeah. Okay, so the next
Do you want the
poll
policy one?
question? Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. So that one, what policies do you rely on to manage behaviour and risk at Christmas events?
This should be a multiple choice. Yeah, all that apply.
Still a little delay coming through.
And then they all come through at once.
Yeah, they're
all coming through now.
Yeah.
Yeah, social media is an interesting one as well, isn't it?
It is, because how many times do we post pictures of us enjoying ourselves at the party and maybe do not check what's in the peripheral screen? Let's just close and share that one.
Let's see the results.
Oh, great. So the 91% is the disciplinary, and then we also have the alcohol, drugs, EDI, and social media. Yeah, there's a few people still not sure, so hopefully we will be clarifying that for everybody, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's think about when is a social event a work event and the key considerations. So a social event can be considered a work event when it's in the course of employment. So this can include your office parties, client functions, training that's off-site, work organised social events, could also be post-meeting social drinks or even leaving party drinks. The difficulty is it's a question of fact and ultimately for the court to resolve. It's not always clear as to what during the course of employment actually means. But we do have some case law to help guide us. So there's three particular cases here that are of interest. But just to illustrate this a little bit further, the Chief Constable of Lincolnshire Police, I think that's one of the earlier cases, it's probably a couple of decades old, where a female police officer was sexually harassed at a leaving party held at a pub. So that was through continuous employment. It was connected to the work environment and therefore they were held liable, vicariously liable. So that illustrates how it doesn't have to be on the workplace premises. It doesn't have to be during working hours. It can be after hours and off-site. I've given you the case names, so these are all available to look further, and we've got information available afterwards that we can share if people are interested in it. The Lives in Parker Merchanting Limited, that's about inappropriate conduct. That happened in a car journey home after a work party. So again, the work event had finished, people were going home. It was found to be a continuing course of conduct linked to the person's employment. And again, it meant that the employer was found liable of the inappropriate conduct. And then in Bellman versus Northampton Recruitment Limited, the employer was again held vicariously liable. And it's a situation where an assault took place. It was after the work event, it was off-site, it was at a hotel where several work colleagues were staying. So it wasn't, it was completely outside of the work event and work. However, what made it a continuous part of employment and connected to the workplace was the discussions that were taking place, and there was an assault. Basically, tempers raised, people got aggressive, the conversations that led to that were of a work-related nature, and that's the thing that connected it back to the employment, and the employer was found liable. And actually the managing director was seriously assaulted and suffered really serious injuries. So those case rulings really illustrate that, as I said, you don't have to be in your office, it doesn't have to be during working hours, it doesn't even have to be at the work social event, it could be after a social event. But these are really important considerations of how an employer can be found to be vicariously liable. So what advice do we have? Well, there's lots of things to think about. First of all, the key thing is your risk assessment, your health and safety considerations. That's key. It allows you to identify where the risks are, the extent of the risk, and to therefore put measures in place to either remove or reduce it. Without doing it, you can't be sure you're fulfilling your health and safety obligations and that duty of care. There then needs to be your specific risk assessment for the prevention of sexual harassment and any associated action plan. Again, this is key. I've said a moment ago that risks obviously increase where there's alcohol, where there's perhaps gatherings taking place in public settings. So you really need to ensure you have that practical risk assessment looking at these particular risk elements as well in order to prevent it. We also recommend having a person or people in charge at your off-site social event. So ensure that someone always remains in authority, that therefore they are sober, they're able to take charge if necessary. Managers should be reminded that they are responsible for setting and upholding standards and should intervene if behaviour seems to be bordering on the unprofessional or unacceptable. Then where there's drunkenness and rowdiness and things are getting a little bit heated, it's about making sure that practical steps are taken to contain that problem and follow it up on the return to work if necessary through your normal company procedures. Another recommendation is to actually brief managers in advance of any social event. So making them aware that they have to keep an eye out for signs of unacceptable behaviour, harassment. It's about nipping it in the bud and enforcing the rules of appropriate conduct and behaviour. Another interesting and key thing is to actually remind your managers not to discuss work-related issues such as performance feedback, promotion, career prospects, salary increases. So that last case ruling that I mentioned, they were talking about work-related issues and it ended up becoming an assault as a result of them talking about what was going on at work, and it became the employee became vicariously liable. So that is actually, it might seem a bit of a killjoy, but actually these are really important measures. And then another important thing is about communicating to your employees beforehand, reminding them about your policies, standards of behaviour. And it, like I say, it's striking the balance so that you're not your killjoy, but you want to have fun, bring everybody together. But you can do that through written memos and you know, setting out that there's a zero tolerance approach. Any breaches of policies will be followed up afterwards, could lead to disciplinary action, and it's just about how you word that memo so you get those key messages through, but you're letting them know, have a good time, but just remember. Also make your event inclusive. So think about the type of event, the venue you're going to encourage as many people to attend. Remember to invite those out of the business on long-term absence, so those on maternity or adoption, long-term sick leave. And those on long-term sick leave, don't assume that they won't be able to attend. Just because they're not fit to attend work, the nature of their ill health and absence may actually mean that they can attend social events, and actually it could be part of their recovery and ultimate return to work, obviously depending on what the absence reason is. So just make your events as inclusive as possible. And when we think about the environment and the entertainment, making sure it's non-offensive. So review any entertainment offered, ensure it doesn't cause offence or is not likely to cause offence. You don't want to be ending up with discrimination claims, because actually jokes can easily result in claims, banter. So try and think of something that most of your workers can enjoy and something that is safe and fair. Set clear boundaries on alcohol consumption and offer non-alcoholic options. So this is really important. You want as many people to attend as possible, but not all employees will want or can have alcohol. Think of religious reasons, or think perhaps if there's individuals that may have, it might be sensitive from an addiction point of view, or the makeup of your workforce, you might employ quite a few young workers who are just not quite 18. So it's about being responsible in how you manage that, facilitate the alcohol consumption. Offering a free bar all evening clearly increases your risks of having those unacceptable behaviours. So obviously we don't recommend that, but you could strike the balance and offer 2 free drinks, and then it's put other measures in place. But that's a really important area to consider, as well as varied food options. So this is from an inclusivity point of view, but also if there's allergies as well, it's making sure that you've got alternatives to meet the needs of various religions that are observed by your staff, as well as those who are vegetarian or have allergies. Now, if we think back to those cases a moment ago, there was one that referred to the journey back after a work event. So think about how you can promote safe transport options. If there is going to be alcohol served, or the event is in the evening, then encourage your employees to arrange lifts, either with non-drinking workmates, travel together, perhaps use minibuses, taxis, and as a minimum ensure that you have local taxi numbers to hand as needed. It's about making sure your employees can travel home safely. Remember that your duty of care towards your employees extends to work-related social events, and employers can be vicariously liable for wrongdoing. So it's about having the right measures in place. And then consider how you'll deal with next day issues. You know, for example, if people turn up late, you get people phoning in sick. If your event is at a weekend and you only operate weekdays, and that avoids that potential problem. Otherwise, think about how lenient you want to be for the day after, depending obviously your organisation, the nature of the job roles. But just think about what stance you want to take. Are you going to be a little bit more lenient to people rolling in, you know, at 9:30 as opposed to 9 o'clock, or what have you? It's, you know, how you want to manage the day after, and deal with issues promptly following the event. So if we think about the legal risk, if there are issues, employees should be letting you know as soon as possible, but you've got that legal duty to act promptly. So I talked about disciplinary and fair dismissals and all of that in the ACAS code. They all remain. So it's about handling things promptly, reasonably. What's also important is getting people's versions of events as soon as possible after any issue, because obviously memories can fade as time passes. So that's a little bit of an action plan for thinking about social events at this time of year. And I have already touched on a little bit about inclusivity, but let's look a little bit more about that. Because whilst this festive season is probably synonymous with Christmas, it's important to adopt an inclusive mindset. Respect the diverse beliefs and needs of your entire workforce. You don't want to be putting your organisation at risk of failing to respect different religions. You don't want to be alienating individuals, because ultimately that opens a door to discrimination claims. So this next section is just to think about some ideas and strategies on how you can support inclusivity. And as I said, Christmas is the dominant holiday. but there are other holidays as well that are recognised around this time. So it's just about understanding what they are. And you can start off with, audit your calendar. So look beyond Christmas Day, look prior to Christmas Day, be aware of other major festivals in December and January for different religions and cultures. When we think about inclusive language, so it's about how you can frame your celebration. So perhaps rather than calling it your Christmas party, it could be an end of year celebration or staff appreciation event. What that's doing is just signalling inclusivity. So it's just respecting all. Also acknowledge non-participants. So not everybody wants to or is able to participate in celebrations for religious, cultural or personal reasons. So just ensure that where there is that non-participation, that they're being penalised. By that I mean, for example, they're not missing out on crucial networking or receiving company information, because sometimes it can be a bit of a company update followed by the social event afterwards. So it's just making sure that if somebody can't attend for religious reasons, then how will you get information to them that is of a crucial organisation information? Then in terms of addressing dietary, cultural and lifestyle needs, then just this is about handling things carefully. Alcohol, that should be optional, as I've spoken about a moment ago. Bear in mind that it is forbidden for some religious beliefs, or there could be some personal health recovery reasons associated to alcohol that makes it difficult for people to want to attend. So the emphasis on alcoholic work events can create that uncomfortable or prohibitive environment for people. So it's how you balance it. So always provide prominent, high quality, non-alcoholic options that are more appealing than just water or soda. And obviously not put pressure on people to be drinking or explaining their reasons why they're not drinking. And then from a food perspective, think about foods such as, for dealing with common allergies, or foods where for people's religions and beliefs that they can't eat certain foods. And then consider how you include everyone, so even remote workers and those on long-term absences. With modern workplaces now, inclusivity extends to beyond the physical location. It's about, how can you do things perhaps virtually? So you've got to be including everybody, not just those who may be located near to your work place. And then make sure people on long-term absences aren't excluded, particularly those on family leave, because that can be a form of discrimination. There's that phrase of out of sight, out of mind, and that is really important to remember not to let happen. Always engage with those people on long-term absences to let them know of key company events and let them make the choice as to whether they're able to come or not. So we've got a couple of questions around the inclusivity, and it's just getting to hear what everybody thinks on this, around what's your own organisation's approach to inclusivity during this season. And as I said, these polls are really helpful because it gives us opportunity to just get a feel for what other organisations are doing or thinking. So hopefully the vote system is working okay still.
Not kicking in yet, but hopefully it will in the next few seconds. Oh, there we go. We're off. So they're just coming through now.
Okay.
I guess it's a big thing, planning.
Well, I was just thinking the same as I'm watching the results come through. There are so many different aspects to think about for planning any event, any time of year. And whilst there will be some things that you automatically do anyway, because, you know, it's just a normal way of living and just a fair, reasonable way of doing things. But there'll be some things that perhaps you may not have thought of and actually could be quite helpful.
I'm just going to close and share that one now. We've just got most of them through on that one. There we go.
What are people doing then? So we have 21%, is it, for celebrating a range of cultural and and we do that ourselves, you know. It's really important.
So the biggest do review their events to make sure everyone feels included. I guess the smaller you are, the easier that is, because you know everybody probably personally or well, or at least somebody knows them well. So it's but the bigger you are, that is a lot harder, because you have to kind of consider every sort of aspect that you may not be visible or aware of, may not have been discussed, may not have occurred before. So it's actually trying to second guess some of them, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, but yeah, that's good. Shall I?
Yeah, that's really helpful to see. Thank you. Yeah, and then we've got a second one at this point,
which is
to think about. Yeah,
biggest challenge.
This is the biggest, so obviously only one can be answered, but it's what your biggest challenge is from an inclusion point of view.
Coming through. Oh, they just started. Give it a minute or two. Interesting how this one's slightly changing. The same two are kind of leading. But, okay, I think most are in there now, so we will close and share those results. So there we go.
Okay. The alcohol, I think,
is the biggest of the challenges.
Because,
yeah,
I mean, you can't control people's actions, can you?
No.
Alcohol,
it is really hard. People do change, you know, and everybody reacts differently.
But that's why all those measures are necessary, and all the like memos beforehand, and you know, you can't be expected to completely be able to take responsibility for a person, because like I say, they're their own person, they've whatever they're drunk, but you can prevent them from getting into a position where, you know, they aren't able to handle their alcohol.
I guess it's also minimizing that happening, but also stepping in at the appropriate point when, if necessary, to kind of before anything gets out of hand. Okay, I will hide that one.
Is that okay? So the next consideration is all about leave, and you know, having any staffing crises at this time of year. It inevitably brings a surge of annual leave requests. You know, you're having to balance operational needs with employee entitlements, and poorly managing leave can lead to resentment, crippling staffing crises, low engagement. So it is actually an important consideration for employers way before December comes. So some practical strategies, you know, establish a clear policy, communicate your leave request deadline well in advance. So requests for December must be submitted by 14th of November, for example, or, you know, clearly outline how conflicting requests are going to be handled. It could be first come, first served. You could do departmental rotation. You could do it even, you know, based on seniority, if it came to it. Think about early booking, encourage early booking as well. So proactively remind employees to book time off and specify any blackout dates where minimum staffing is essential. And, you know, what's also important is people don't have all their holiday left to the end of the year and therefore want to take it all around this period. It should be used steadily throughout the year because it is to do with health and safety reasons why we have annual leave. But just have that clear plan for employees who have accrued holiday and how you can prevent that last minute mass exodus. And fair refusal. If you are going to have to refuse a request, just make sure you do it in writing, you cite business reasons. You know, for example, essential coverage is required under the during this period of time, and offer alternative dates immediately. So I guess from your point of view, what tends to be your biggest staffing challenge over this Christmas period, festive period? There could be many, but for example, the ones we have in the poll here, which one is your biggest, would you say?
I know for our helpline rotas and all our cover for Christmas, we start planning it in September.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And it was all signed off by the beginning of October. So, and that's to allow for proper planning, make sure everybody's done as much as they can to get up to date prior to the absence period, and then we can manage with less staff over the key periods when it is quieter or when we're actually closed. And it just means it's manageable and there's no kind of loss in service, but it is quite a juggling act. Okay, I'm going to close that one and share the results. There we go.
What people are saying.
So the biggest is too many leave requests. Yes, that is the challenge.
It gets hard, doesn't it? If you have to then prioritise, how do you prioritise?
And when you've got flu and stuff like that going around, and you've got people really poorly as well, and obviously you might not know until the time, and you've arranged your minimum staff, and then 2 or 3 of them have gone down with the lurgy, then it's really hard. Because then you're asking people to come in and work. So, yeah.
And perhaps for smaller organisations, the impact is bigger, isn't it?
It's bigger. Yeah, absolutely.
Brought out with all of those things.
Okay, let's go into the next one, which is how do you manage the competing annual leave requests of all the options available? That's coming through now.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's nearly there. Okay, I will close and share those ones now. There we go.
Okay. I really love the team negotiation one, actually.
And that's what we do, basically.
Yeah. Because if everybody's involved and feels they've had their say, it's more accepting if, you know, of the end result, I guess. But it just shows that, you're listening, and it's important what they have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps. It does help with the cover. We've found we do it across all of our teams, and then if one team has got more requests than the other, but there are more people prepared to work in the other, and they're happy to cover for the team that's got more requests, then in most cases we've been able to allow everybody who wants the time off to have it, and those who are happy to work are happy to cover, because they're such a close team. So it does work well if you can use the collaborative approach. And I think those are the business is a good idea.
Well, I was just about to say that. I love that one.
I wish we could do that. Unfortunately, we have so many clients who work throughout that we could never actually close.
No.
But we do. It is quieter than normal. And so we are able to run on slightly less staff.
And we tend to put notices out, don't we, beforehand?
We do. We let everybody know.
Opening hours.
Yeah. I mean, the open airs, we do close a little bit. We close early on Christmas Eve and on New Year's Eve, but that's about it. We're open. We close the bank holidays.
Still very nice.
We're open the rest of the week. So yeah, it's good. Okay. So did we have?
Well, I was just going to ask if there's any other strategies that you use that you want to just share with us. Just drop them in the question panel, and we'll perhaps look over those at the end when we go through your Q&A. Just really interesting to hear how other employers do it. So do let us know of any other strategies.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Sue. And I suppose a really important one, and something to not forget, is around the well-being of your workforce, especially at this time of year. There could be significant personal issues, stresses. You might be seeing burnout, drop in productivity. Employees might be concerned from a financial point of view. And so it's what role you can play in helping your employees at this time of year. So first of all, think about workload and mitigating workload and that holiday pressure, because a key driver of festive stress is the combined pressure of deadlines before year end, managing any handover for when there's time off, and then obviously it's juggling your personal commitments outside of work as well. So, be realistic about deadlines, review workflows late November, and challenge any unnecessary deadlines, and communicate to clients and stakeholders that your operational capacity is reduced during the holiday period. Really encourage disconnection. Managers obviously play an important role in that by leading by example. Avoid sending non-urgent emails to your workforce during their evenings or while they're on annual leave. And clearly state that employees are not expected to be checking their emails whilst they're off. And flexible working, where operationally feasible, then are you able to offer some temporary flexibility in how they're working their hours, allowing people to start perhaps a little later, finish a little earlier, just to help in managing personal commitments. We have lots of school plays going on, childcare, there could be some childcare challenges. There might even be increased medical appointments, what have you. There are additional pressures, and it's just recognising how you can support your employees through your working arrangements. A huge stressor is obviously financial worries. It's an expensive time of year, and it's how you can support your employees with that. And really, it's things like, if you have an employee assistance program, make sure you're promoting that. Highlight the specific services that they can offer, such as if they can do that confidential financial counselling, debt advice, budgeting to support. You can also direct your workforce to financial literacy resources, so share those reputable professional sources of financial information just to help them in managing their budgets and finances. One consideration, and this is perhaps has mixed views, are there any early pay options if feasible? It has its challenges as well as the positives, but sometimes it can help with employees with their stress from a financial point of view if they perhaps paid a few days early. But the downside of that is they've got to go longer before the January pay. So it's just trying to work out what works best for your organisation and how you can help with any financial concerns. And then financial sensitivity, recognise that not all employees are financially comfortable during the holidays. So if there is things like Secret Santa, don't make it mandatory. Or if you're doing something for charity and asking for donations, again, it's as and when, you know, if people feel they want to donate and contribute. And then think about your social events. If you think back to the Christmas parties, then think about your travel. Can you subsidise that in any way? Can you help to reduce the financial barrier in order to encourage attendance? And then another consideration is around relationship strains and isolation. This time of year can exacerbate existing difficulties, including loneliness for those without family nearby, relationship strains for others that may be dealing with complex family situations. So if you have mental health first aiders, for example, ensure your employees know who they are, how to contact them. Alternatively, signpost employees to external sources of professional and reputable providers of guidance on mental health. I mentioned EAPs a moment ago. Foster positive connections, so organise inclusive, low-pressure social events that don't revolve solely around drinking. Consider voluntary daytime lunch breaks, coffee breaks, or have a structured volunteering event, bringing everybody together. And then check-ins are really important, having that culture where, as managers, you're regularly checking in with your employees, having those one-to-one catch-ups, seeing how they are, how they're managing things, and just creating that safe space for dialogue. And hopefully by prioritising these proactive measures, you can help alleviate some of the stress for your employees. And in this area, we've got a few polls. It is a really important area. You know, mental health in particular is a crisis. We're seeing increased absences. So from your perspective, what wellbeing initiatives do you promote over this time of year? And you can select more than one.
They're coming through now.
Lovely. What I probably will do is pull together some insights and share out after the event with the slides, perhaps, just to sort of help with ideas of what other employers are doing.
I've just shared the results of this one. So the mental health and the AP reminders is the biggest one.
Yeah.
And flexible working arrangements. Yeah. But that mean they're all well.
It's such a pressurized time of year, juggling everything. Flexible working is a really good, hopefully manageable way of just helping to ease some stress for your employees. So thank you for that. And on the second poll, it's about which particular wellbeing issue do you see most during the festive period in your organisation? Now, I'm just conscious of time. We've got a few slides. I do want to just highlight the ERB. So if you are able to stay on, that would be great.
Yeah, just the votes just coming through now. They're coming through pretty
Okay.
quickly now, so. Okay, we will close that and share those results now. There we go.
So stress and burnout. Yeah, it's been a long, hard year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
So,
all
yeah.
those are good. Okay, and I will.
Then it's really, how prepared do you feel for managing this period this year? Bearing in mind everything that we've gone through so far. Oh, here they come now.
Okay, I'll share those now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh.
So we've got some prepared people, which is good.
Brilliant.
But yeah, hopefully this has helped as well.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We are in November. It feels like it's creeping on up quickly, but we are still in November. Okay, let's hide that, and I think we've got one more at this stage.
One more. Yeah. Yeah. And it's do with improving one aspect of your planning management. So obviously I've taken you through various elements to consider.
Yeah, they're coming through now.
Brilliant. So we've got 39% clear communication and planning. Yeah, so hopefully, you know, you've taken some thoughts away from this session today to give you an idea where you can further enhance. So the next two polls, I don't know whether you want to do those now or perhaps
do them at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. So let me just, before we take questions and bring it to a close, it's just really important to include in our webinars now about the ERB. And just to let you know that the Employment Rights Bill is still going through Parliament. It's been back and forth between the two houses, House of Commons, House of Lords. 17th of November is the next key date when the amendments are being considered. From our research and what we're following, we believe the bill could still become law as early as either this month or early December. And that's significant. We have a roadmap communicated by the government. We know that this first phase of reforms are expected as soon as the bill is passed or shortly after, so at any moment. And then April next year is going to be massive in terms of some of the second phase of the reforms that are coming in. For example, your SSP that's going to be changing. That's one that comes to mind. But just to let you know that between now and April, once that bill is passed, there's going to be 22 reforms 14 of those will come in as soon as the bill is passed or soon after, with 8 reforms coming in April. And between April and then going into 27 and beyond, we're going to see a further 21 reforms. So in October next year, there's going to be 10, and then 27 onwards, there's going to be a further 11 reforms. And these are all massive and will have significant impact. If you've joined our previous webinars, you'll know. If anybody is available and wants to come along to a free session, we're running one in Sutton Coldfield on the 2nd of December. We're going to take you through the key reforms. It's a couple of hours. There's lunch available at our free event, and it'll help you in planning for the reforms, because they are going to be significant and bring in massive change. You can visit the events page on our website, so hrsolutions-uk.com, and then I've put a QR code there if you've had time to scan that as well. Keep in touch with us, follow us, keep in touch with our website, because we continue to post the news about the progress of the Employment Rights Bill. We have lots of tools available, documents that can be helped in preparing. You could also try our helpline, our HR advice line. Give us a call. We're offering that 30-minute free consultation with the team. So it might be you want to talk about the ERB, or actually something to do with the Christmas parties that we've been talking about. And also, as part of the ERB and the reforms coming in, we've tailored our webinar programme. So continue to join us in our free monthly webinars. The next one is about planning for next year. January, we're looking at statutory sick pay. As I said, that's changing in April, and it's going to bring significant change. February, we're looking at the budget and the HR essentials for next year and beyond. And then we're running an annual employment law seminar in March. So do sign up to those free events as well. So that was really quick in terms of ERB, but I just wanted to let you know, stay focused, keep following the news on that, because it's not going to be long before it comes in. So we are just 11 o'clock. I'm happy to take a couple of questions if you are, Sue.
Yes, we've had a couple.
Yeah.
A few of them are around the risk assessments.
Okay.
There is a poll in a minute that'll just ask if you want us to contact you. But if you don't want us to contact you, you can contact us through our contact forms and through the inquiries contacts that Victoria mentioned earlier. But you're asking about resources. We have plenty of resources, as you might imagine. We also do health and safety as well as HR. So yes, we've got health safety risk assessments as well. But the questions, some of the questions are around, as well as whether we provide resources, is should we do a health and safety risk assessment on site? Yeah, it felt like I said that. Health and safety risk assessment on the site at the venue. Usually venues will have a risk as part of your risk assessment. Yes, you would need to do it, but you can ask the venue for copies of their risk assessments of the venue and of their risk mitigations that they've carried out, because obviously when they're a public event space, they have to follow certain rules and requirements and have to have their own risk assessments as well. So you could use those and build them into your own, I would suggest. Somebody was asking about the tricky memo to strike the right balance without being a killjoy and scaring off. We do have a sample, which was the question. So contact us and we can try and help you with that. It is a very tricky memo though, but we have got a sort of, it's a very loose template that you can edit, but it gives you some suggested wording. But you don't really want to be that, it's HR again, killjoy in the party.
We get a bad reputation, don't we?
We do. And the question was around who should complete the risk assessments. Is it HR or health and safety? Well, it's probably both, but really it's the organizer, the party organizer, which tends to be HR in a lot of worlds. But if you have health and safety team or people or a health and safety consultant, then yes, they would certainly be able to help. Certainly with the health and safety assessments, the sexual harassment risk assessment is a business-wide assessment. So HR are probably the ones that are more key, but it could be one of the managers that does it. So yeah, there's no rule. It's just somebody who's
position
appropriate.
of responsibility.
Yeah, to carry it out. So we have a question about how do others deal with lateness and sickness the day after the party. So if you have got any suggestions, pop them on in the next few minutes, and I can read them at the end. I know we get quite a few calls on the helpline about absence and how do I manage it. And in a way, if you have, it's part of one of the things you discussed, I think it was preparing in advance and telling staff, either, if you're more than 30 minutes late in the morning, then, this will not be acceptable. Giving them some leeway, maybe, allowing a little bit of flexibility, or if you need everybody in at 9, you need to make that clear in advance, and how you would deal with it if they breach it. So if you've told them in advance, then genuinely you would have to deal with it with whatever you said you would do. If it is managing it, if it is having a stern meeting and a sort of a warning, it depends on whether they are a regular offender or if it's a one-off, and whether it was just minor or so I guess it's how you want to handle it, and what previously you've done, or if you've had an issue previously, but technically they're contractually obliged to turn up their normal working hours for the following day, unless you have given them permission to do otherwise.
I guess it all depends the job they do, the kind of industry and sector you work in, type of business you operate. So, I mean, and it's ultimately an operational decision, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. So if they're on duty driving a forklift the next morning, then that needs to be considered about the actual event. Do you need to bring it forward, or do you need to have a cut-off, because of enabling staff to safely recover in order to be fit for work the following day? So that's part of the balancing, isn't it? The equity and the fairness of the event and how you manage that. So somebody said that they allow employees to switch out 2 bank holidays to take them when more culturally, religiously pertinent to themselves. That's a nice option. There's a question about how to deal with management negativity due to a Christmas party, due to the restrictions and responsibilities. It's easy to say no, which is kind of what I was saying. It does cross your mind sometimes, especially when you're the one having to deliver all the bad news. But at the end of the day, it's what is the purpose of it? It's a social event to reward your staff quite often, to give them a chance to let their hair down when it's been a tough year, to say thank you. It's whether you can do that in a way that minimises all the kind of risks associated with it. And it is possible, because every year hundreds and thousands of businesses manage to have a successful event, whatever that is. So and I guess it's all about the management and getting all of that done early, so that people are not linking it directly with the event. If you've sent the memo out in November and you've put all these management things in place, you've done all your risk assessments, you've minimized everything you can, then when it comes to the event, you're focusing on the event, and hopefully people will see the positive side of it, and the intention of the event, which is to have a bit of fun. It's things apart from a code of conduct, having a support contact, sending a memo regarding behaviour to all attendees. What else can you do to manage the risk of sexual harassment? Don't forget you've got the third party issue as well. So you would want to know what the venue is doing about their staff and the people they may hire in for the event. You probably want to see their sexual harassment risk assessments as well. As part of this request, to understand what they have put in place, and then that's probably going towards the all as opposed to reasonable. So yeah, I think it is really going as far as you can. Can you check that the event and that their policies are fit for purpose?
Yeah.
To manage it, to minimise the risk.
It's almost like you need a checklist, isn't there? Of
Yeah,
all the things you need to
absolutely.
be doing.
And then the final kind of bit is about sickness generally during the month, because it was the sort of second or third in the poll. High absenteeism is one of the concerns and the challenges. And they were saying that one person saying it's mooted that if a member of staff is sick, it's frowned upon them attending any parties of any kind. And it kind of does throw, you know, are they that ill if they can come in? Plus, you don't want them coming and infecting everybody at the party and then everybody being off ill the following day. So I think it's a good rule to have, depending on what they're ill with. But yeah, it is it's again all managing the expectations. You know, you expect them. Managing the sickness, as always, is always going to be a challenge, and more so come April potentially, and just following your policies and following your procedures and treating everybody equally and not coming down hard on some if you don't normally do that. It's just being equitable. And then I guess the final thing is it was to do with the reforms and the flexible working requests at retirement age. For staff a year or two from retirement that asks to push their full week into 4 days, what do they need to consider to comply? I think it's the same as any other, isn't it? But making sure you're not discriminating on grounds of age. But
when in terms of the reforms under the ARB, the change to flexible working is the decision making. So not only does it have to meet one of those statutory decline reasons if you are declining, but your decision making has to be reasonable.
Yeah.
So the reason why you're declining has to be reasonable. So that's the change. So the process will still be the same. You're just going to have to, there'll be more onus on you to make sure you're absolutely watertight. You've exhausted all avenues. You've got clear evidence to explain why you're refusing, and you're acting reasonably in that approach. But what is reasonable is not defined
yet. Will we ever get a definition? I don't know. But no, I think that's all the questions
lovely
covered roughly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some good questions in there.
Very good questions. Just want to run the last two polls very quickly. It's really let's see, here we go.
Yeah,
there we go. It's showing now.
Yeah.
What further information or support would you like, Trissy, from us regarding what we've discussed today?
Just literally just starting to come through. I'm not.
It
was. It's been really sticky, the polls again today. I don't know quite know what's happened. They all sort of come through at once. Then, so I'll put the next one up, which I think is. So I'm going to close that one, and then I'll just put the next one up because I think that's whether you would like us to contact you. I say it's just an option there to give you. We won't contact you normally unless you ask us to. So it's just to give you that option if you'd like us to make the approach to you. If you don't want to go and seek out the contact us form or send us an email, either way, it'll get to the right people, and you know, you will be contacted with some further information, and that's on anything really. Even if you just want to ask us, do you do? We used to be asked that. I don't suppose you do this, do you? Or do you have this? Or can you help with this? And we can point you in the right direction, even if it's something we don't do. So yeah, that's all that was, which might be slightly easier to say than the one before. So I will close that now.
Okay, lovely.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And
thank you.
Really, that's to bring it all to a close. I really appreciate you staying on for the extra 10-15 minutes. Really appreciate that. I know everybody's busy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sue, for supporting the webinar as well. And we hope to see you on our future webinars and at our events. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.